And I want to welcome our newest member, Jennifer Urban. Thank you, Jennifer Urban. So let's see, can we have the, count the roll, please? Pass the roll.
Mr. Keeley.
Present.
Ms. Hendricks.
Here.
Ms. Bradford.
Here.
Ms. Higa.
Here.
Mr. Pursuant.
Here.
Ms. Urden.
Here.
For the Director of Finance, Ms. Whitaker.
Sorry, here.
For the State Treasurer, Mr. Ruffino.
Present.
For the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Yamanaka.
Here.
For the State Controller, Ms. Paquin.
Here.
Chairperson Yamamoto, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, Trevor. So the board, this morning, the board will have a 10-minute public comment period at the end of each agenda item, and the public comment after each item will be limited to the agenda item topic. There will be an additional opportunity for statements from the public for items not pertaining to a specific agenda item at the end of the open session meeting. Individuals wishing to speak at the board web conference schedule should dial into the public comment line at 833-986-0555 and wait for the call-in queue. Each speaker is allowed a minimum of 3 minutes for his or her presentation. If there's not enough time for the speakers to have 3 minutes, the timing will be at the discretion of the chair. The Teachers Retirement Board meetings are live, web streamed, and video archived, which are available to the public on CalSTRS.com. To protect the privacy of minors who wish to address the board, public commenters under the age of 18 shall only state their name and affiliated organization, but do not share any personal identifying information such as last name, age, or school. Okay, so with that, we'll go to agenda item number 1 to approve the committee agenda.
Move approval.
Okay. It's been moved by Sharon, seconded by Denise. Any discussion? Do we need to take a roll call? No. Okay.
It's at your pleasure, Chairperson.
Okay. So we'll just say all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the agenda is approved. Okay, they're going to go to item number 2, the consent agenda item, the approval of minutes of the November 7th Benefits and Services Committee meeting. Any members wish to speak on item number 2? Any corrections? Oops, sorry.
I just was going to move approval.
Okay.
As long as you've checked it over, Karen, and made sure
Yes.
there's no.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Okay, so moved by Sharon, seconded by Joy to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, so now we'll go to item number 3, which is going to be really exciting. We have 20 minutes for this item. It's going to be on the CalSTRS member demographic study. So take it away, Tom and Ruth. Thank you.
Good morning, Karen and members of the committee. We are pleased to be with you today to bring forward this long-awaited results of the study. As you'll recall, we've embarked on this some time ago, and the survey was out in the field over a year ago. Our acting research manager, Tom Buffalo, and the project lead, one of our lead researchers, Ruth Lattendorf, are going to share a few thoughts and then really open it to all of you for discussion and comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before we get into the data, I wanted to give a quick background on this project. Ruth is actually the origin of the demographics study. So a while back, she was studying some research from the Wisconsin retirement system. At the time, they had published what they called their Empower study, and they were looking specifically at their female membership, ways to get their female membership to engage with the system more, ways to enhance their financial literacy through workshops and social media and messaging. So Ruth was studying this information and she said, you know, we need to do something like this for our membership. We need to study more than just what the general variables we collect for administering benefits. And so go ahead, next slide. And here's why. Demographic variables correlate very well with financial outcomes. And as a retirement system, we're of course interested in financial outcomes because they are then correlated with retirement outcomes. So we reasoned that if we were to get a better understanding of the educator career arc, the composition of their household income, household savings, education, that we could use this knowledge to better serve our members. Next slide, please. So before embarking on the study, we first tried to see if we could find any information publicly, public source data that we could use to extract the data that we needed and draw the conclusions that we hope to draw from learning more about our membership. And initially we thought, let's go to the census. Let's see what that can offer us. And we looked at it. And in looking at it, we determined that the member population is different. We sit in California. We have a very specific region of the United States. California happens to be a very diverse state. Teachers in themselves are primarily focused in one kind of expertise, one profession, which is education. And so we didn't feel that the census in itself would generalize, or the generalization of the census would be enough to, like I said, extract the information that we wanted to specifically help with our membership. Ruth, do you have any additional thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, so I think that really the distinguishing characteristic about our membership that really made us feel like we needed to do our own demographic study is just how highly educated our members are. So we all know by and large that there's this 5-year higher education requirement, so the 4-year degree and the credential to be a California public educator. But it's not just that our members are educated. Really, by having that minimum education level, it really decreases the potential variation we'll see in financial outcomes, not just in their career, but in retirement. So education is really what we call that great equalizer, meaning that it can kind of transcend demographic and social difference. And what that means is that you'll see people from different demographic backgrounds or various backgrounds. When they have the same educational level, they'll have more common experiences, especially regarding finances. And then people with the same background but different educational levels will have fewer common experiences. And this really could mitigate any relationship you see between demographics and those retirement financial outcomes. And for us as a retirement system, it's really where the differences or the outcomes, those differences and outcomes persist, that we need to concentrate on looking at our membership and determining how we can best serve them. And you'll remember that we've presented research to you in the past. So thinking about our longevity research, it's not always just about the finances either. So education can impact earnings and retirement benefits, but also things like quality of life in retirement and longevity. So this was really the aspect of our membership that we thought really took us from being able to use general research and really needing to do our own research. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. So yeah, let's talk about that a little more. Next slide, please. So this is some data. So on the survey, we asked members to report the highest level of education that they have attained. And so along our horizontal axis, you can see we're moving across the continuum from an associate's degree to bachelor's to master's to doctorate. And we're comparing 3 groups here. the California, the US, and then our survey respondents. So California being the light blue bar, and the US Census being the dark blue, and then our members being in kind of that seafoam green. And so as you move across the spectrum, I think the one thing that stands out the most is the master's column. So on a state level and a national level, about 1 in 5 people have a master's degree, or if you add it to the doctorate, about 1 in 4. Whereas our membership, based on what they've reported to us, you take the 60% master's and then the 8% doctorate, nearly 2 in 3 have an advanced degree. So we dug into this one a little bit more as well. Next slide, please. So this is the same concept. We've just excluded the comparisons to the state to the national. So this is highest degree obtained by teaching position. So again, associates, bachelor's, teaching credential, master's, doctorate, other. And then the light blue bar now is K through 12 educators. The little bit darker blue is the community college faculty, administrators in that seafoam green, and then the far right of each column is in that blue color is kind of our catch-all other. So we see in the K through 12, 54%, 68% for community college faculty, 76% for administrators, and 65% for the other catch-all. Now, what's interesting too is we dug into even that K through 12, and that proportion holds at every level, elementary, middle, and at the high school level. So what that means is if we had gone back and actually relied on just the census data, we might have assumed that the membership at a pace of about 1 in every 4 has an advanced degree. But based on what the members have told us, at minimum, 1 out of every 2 members has an advanced degree, and in some cases, it's 2 out of every 3. So it was good to get visibility of this data because, like Ruth was mentioning, education does have that equalizing effect in terms of demographic research. Ruth, anything to add there? Great, next slide, please. So before embarking on the study, we did want to make sure we approached this the right way. This was the first time we've done a study of this scale of demographic research. So one of the things we did initially was we reached out to other state agencies that are kind of well known for collecting demographic information. The Department of Finance, the Employment Development Department. We spoke with them and they were very helpful, gave us some tips and some information, best practices about how to approach this. But the thing that struck us the most is they were very enthusiastic about this research. They were actually really curious to learn what we learn. And so part of our long-term plan is to circle back around with them and share what we've learned and contribute back to the body of knowledge about doing demographic research. The other thing we did too, Ruth coordinated outreach with our stakeholders. It was important for us to share our plan with them so that they can then amplify that message to our membership. And it worked great because we actually had a tremendous response. We had over 30,000 retired respondents. We had over 10,000 active respondents. So a total of 40,000 responses to this survey gave us very high statistical confidence, and it shrinks our margin of error to a very low number, which from a research perspective is really what we want. So we certainly want to say thank you to the stakeholders that took our message and amplified that because it gave us some good numbers to work with. So next slide, please. So how we're using the data. In fact, we've actually already started using the data. The plan all along, like I said, was to learn more about the membership to help us serve our members better. And so we've had internal meetings with CalSTRS business areas. We've shared data, in particular with our groups like communications, our retirement readiness division. And what we really wanted was just give them an additional tool to do what they do best. So that was our intent with sharing the information. Next slide, please. So let's go to some examples of how it's been used so far. Now, this is actually live data. These are with our early career member kits. Our communications division has a series of milestone publications sent to members at different times in their career. And this one hit the early career member kit. And like I said, this is live data. This went out late June, early July. But I wanted to talk about this just a little bit because some of the educators on the board and for anybody else listening, this might resonate with some of you. So we asked, why did you become a teacher? And this was a select all that applied. 69% said I wanted to make a difference in the lives of students. 40% said I wanted to give back to the community. 39% I had a teacher who inspired me. 27% I've known my whole life I wanted to be an educator. 25% I like the teaching schedule. And 14% I came from a family of educators. So just nuggets here and there that can really help a member engage with the information, because these member kits are chock full of terrific information as is. There's information about the benefit formula, about the savings gap, about how to fill the savings gap with 403B and 457 contributions. So anything that we can do to add to that to, again, help the members engage and maybe connect with each other, connect with their peer group, and engage with the data more. That was our intent with adding some of this data to some of these member kits. Next slide, please. Another example here, mid-career member kit, again, a milestone publication. The data is in purple, and I'll see how you can see how nicely communications wove this in. I'm going to start in the purple box on the left, the second sentence in, where it says, in our 2019 demographic survey, 88% of respondents indicated they plan to continue to work in California public education until they retired. And then here's that nice weave that communications made. This is great news since the length of service is one of the factors that enhance retirement benefits. So again, just offering an opportunity for the reader, for the member to engage with the information more and maybe start asking questions themselves. Okay, oh, I get it. All right, so length of career, that is service credit. How does service credit work into the general equation? So just opportunities to get the reader to engage as best as possible with the information. Next slide, please. Another example here from the mid-career kit, down there in the purple. This was just an interesting fact, but it applies well here. This particular page in the mid-career member kit has to do with Social Security, which has its own sort of unique interaction with CalSTRS, and members are sometimes caught off guard by the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. So down there in the purple, this is a question that we asked, and it was kind of woven in nicely here. 27% of respondents to our survey indicated they were married to another CalSTRS member. If you're part of this population, consider how these two provisions could affect each of you when planning for retirement. So again, just another example of helping a member engage with these concepts and getting to think through different lenses when they're trying to absorb some of this more heavy information. Next slide, please. Finally, visual example here. This is our near retirement kit. Here, there at the top in the bold, according to CalSTRS survey, 77% of respondents indicated they're satisfied or completely satisfied with their quality of life in retirement. And so this is giving the reader an opportunity to kind of visualize, if you will, because they can kind of check boxes about what their thoughts are, and that can help with planning too. It's sort of like setting the goal, visualizing the goal at first, and then that can help you get there. So next slide, please. So I don't have a visual example for this, but another way we've already started using the data is we've partnered with our Pension 2 team. They were looking at doing some targeted marketing themselves. And so from the demographic data, we were able to supply them with household income, household savings at a county level. And they were able to use that, I think, to explore some opportunities about how to better market in specific counties down in Southern California. So with regard to that, our long-term plan with the data is to continue to mine it over the coming years, extract what we can from it, and again, share it with the internal business areas within CalSTRS to give them a tool to help them do what they do best. And the plan then beyond that is actually to do this study again in roughly about 5 years. So this initial study is our benchmarking study, and then we'll kick it off again in 5 years and see what kind of comparisons we can get over time. And then before I close, I do want to acknowledge the research team who also made contributions to this report: David, Joanne, Heather, Rose, Christy. This is a big comprehensive report, big survey, big project. And, as they say, it takes a village.
Right.
So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. That was very interesting, and hopefully we can add to all the knowledge that CalSTRS already has about our membership and continue to do the good work that we do. Okay, we've got Sharon.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Tom, Ruth, the whole team. You guys continue just to do really quality work, and I think it helps us just to understand the members we serve, and just how to, communicate more effectively to them to entice them to think about, how their pension, I love the slide you showed, Tom, about the service credit, and just understanding that when you stay in CalSTRS and teach for a long time, that helps to boost your final pension check with defined benefits. So that's great. I wondered, are we starting to use gender neutral language, Tom, in all our publications? And I wondered how you guys thought about some of the gender. It's come up a lot in our district in conversations around kind of doing analysis on gender. And obviously the world is changing and how people identify. And so I just wanted to hear some of your conversations as a research team on how to navigate that moving forward, and kind of what's our policy or how are we going to handle that moving forward?
To answer the part about using gender neutral in our communications, I wouldn't be able to answer that. You may want to check with Karen to find out how they approach that. Now, in our survey here, we did ask, male, female, and non-binary, because that's also what the census has started using. So we did collect that information. The proportion is very, very small, as you would expect, so we didn't report out on it. But like I said, when we go forward again in 5 years, and then 5 years after that, we'll continue to use that and see how that becomes a proportion of our population.
And when you reference Karen, you mean Karen Doran, the communication?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else,
Tom.
Sharon? Okay. Next, Harry.
Thanks, Karen. Tom, everyone who participated and put this report together, job well done. Really a large sample of our membership. So pretty impressive in terms of the sample size. I can't help to think that there's, and you said, you talked a little bit about how you and how we are going to use the information that's been compiled. There's really a compelling story on multiple fronts here. Key takeaways for me are the consistency in terms of the gender dominance of about 70% of the population are women. The reason why people become educators, really want to make a difference, give back into the community, that's consistent. The underrepresentation of people of color in the profession, which is it's a big policy issue, not only for California, but for the country. The education attainment of teachers in California, almost 70% have advanced degrees or higher. The longevity, people who are in the profession are committed to staying, and the link between that and the quality of life. And then if you take the other data about the modest benefit of CalSTRS, there is a very, very compelling story that I think we should think about how we want to and where we want to use that strategically to place that publicly and weave that together. So I'd like to thinking your comments on how you and other members of the organization are thinking about that in terms of placement of a story publicly at the right time. And then secondly is, are there opportunities to reach out to schools of education, and how you think, have you thought about how this information can be shared with schools of education in building partnerships across California, UCLA, LMU here in the South, up Northern California, the universities as well.
Anything else, Harry? Thank you.
No, I think there were questions woven into that.
Okay. So Tom, did you want to respond now, or do you want to get back to us later, or how do you?
No, I can respond because, as part of, like I said, the distribution of information throughout the organization is one of our main goals with this data. And in part, we would want to, we do plan to share it with our government relations staff, for example, when they're thinking about policy considerations and formulating a variety of different policy proposals. So to help them understand more about, specific angles of the population. But Harry, the next step is to share it with the organizations, the state agencies that assisted us early on. And then we've also been just doing networking with other groups as well. And we'd be happy to share that information where needed to kind of help with some of their agendas as well.
Great. Lots of information.
Perhaps a follow-up separate call so as to not to take up too much of the committee time with the appropriate folks, including myself and Sharon, in terms of placement of a story around this data. You think about the California Teachers Association, they reach over 300,000 people on a monthly basis in the communication that they have.
Sure.
So I'll follow up with the staff and set up some time with Sharon and the appropriate people to see if we can get a little bit more into the details. Thank you so much. Great report.
Let me in that loop too. Okay. Bill, I saw your hand. Bill, I saw your hand up. Did you want to?
Well, I think Harry addressed it. I mean, I was just going to say that just the one fact, the one graph that showed, or a slide that showed the reasons people chose the profession, I think is compelling.
Yes.
It really demonstrates values, the importance of the values people use in selecting what they choose to be their profession. And I'm awfully impressed with that breakout. It makes me feel good about the public school educators in the state of California. And I think that, as Harry said, that message can be really amplified. And I think it would assist in a lot of discussions regarding a variety of public issues. So thank you, Harry, for acknowledging all of that.
Yes, I checked that box too. Okay, any more discussion? Any more? I don't see. Oops, Karen Doran.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Good morning. I'm all look over here. I have my two screens. Just wanted to let you know that we actually are moving to gender neutral language in our publications. We've actually updated our style guide to support the use of they instead of he, she when needed. And there's a lot of other work we're doing in that area. So I just wanted to address that question.
Great.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Great. Okay. So thank you very much. Any members of the public who wish to speak on item 3?
There's no members of the public on the line right now.
Great. Thank you. Okay. We'll move to item number 4.
I'm sorry if I could just interrupt really quick. I'm sorry. Just the report is available on CalSTRS.com now. If you go to publications and then to our reports and studies, it's there. And so it's available.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Everybody get that? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tom, very much. Thank Ruth, and thanks, Jan. Going to item number 4, Employee Education and Outreach, Jeff Zimmer. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Chairperson Yamamoto.
All right. Oops, that's the wrong one.
I'll wait for my slides to come up. In the meantime, my name is Jeff Zimmer. I'm the Director of Member Account Services. And today I'll be speaking about our approach to employer education, and give you a little bit of background about the ways we do it, why we do it, and what we're learning from it, and what we plan to do in the future.
Great. So as soon as we get up your slides, we'll be ready to go.
Of course. I could riff for a good 15 minutes on incentive plans if necessary. It's a hobby of mine.
You certainly have the radio voice going.
I know. I was just going to say that.
Thank you. Thank you. I could, it's all come to this moment. My background in incentive design might finally come to fruition. There it is. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Really appreciate all the technical support from everybody working on the board meetings. So again, I'm Jeff, Director of Member Account Services, and I'll be talking about employer education today. Some information for the committee. Next slide, please. So this slide, I just wanted to set up the landscape so you have some idea of who we work with and kind of the scope of the employer reporting. So we have nearly 1,800 districts from counties from Del Norte to Imperial, geographically, very large regions. Those districts report up through 72 report sources, usually county offices of education. There's some direct reports that report directly to us without going through a county. And those report sources submit more than 2,000 files per year. And those are defined benefit monthly files. They're defined benefit supplemental files when they need to add something to that month or to make up some information. And of course, cash balance files as well. We get cash balance reporting from our employers. So those 2,000 files contain about 13 million lines per year. So that's the amount of reporting that we're receiving when we talk about employer reporting and contribution data. Just wanted to kind of set that, the enormity of the amount of information that we receive from our employer partners throughout the year and who we get it from. And more about who, next slide. So when I refer to employers, they can be, again, the county offices of education, school districts, and they can also be charter schools and a handful of state agencies. We have a very small amount of members that report through a state agency. So that's when we say employer. When we're training employers, that's the audience. Those are the people that we're reaching out to. And it's mostly the payroll and HR staff at those organizations. So when I say employer, obviously there's, chief financial officers out there, there's superintendents. When I speak of education, we're really working with the payroll and HR staff that are submitting that contribution data that I mentioned in the second slide. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just talk about education. So I titled this Education on Purpose. It's not just training. So these are the teams and member account services, and I'm not trying to provide a roll call of the teams, but this helps make a distinction between education and training. Education comes from all of the teams and member account services. So they all have a unique relationship with our employer partners in some way. The audits resolution team, for example, works with them to correct audit findings. And our test team, the testing and employer support team, works with them when they have issues getting a file through the secure employer website. If there's some technical hang up, they can assist with that. So each of them educate the employer partners in a different way. So all of this is about employer education. And of course, formal training is an important part of it, but it's one aspect of that overall education approach. The rest of the presentation will focus on that formal training, but I might come back and forth to the fact that there's more education being provided than just the training I'm about to talk about. And again, that comes from everybody in member account services and of course our peers in financial services who provide information to the employers about how to report cash and other things like that. So it's not just us, but it is a group effort about this education. Next slide we'll talk about. So this is the triggers. So this is when we know we need to provide that formal training. So again, our audits and resolution team, if there's an audit, that's a natural trigger to make a training request to our training and development team to go and reach out to the employer to see if they need training about that particular issue. Employer services, that's the group within member account services that relate most closely to the employers. Each of them have a county that they're assigned to, so they have a relationship with a specific county and a report source. So they know that a county might need some education, so they can also submit a training ticket to get an employer some education. And internal stakeholders, so again, financial services or our partners in service retirement that do post-retirement earnings, they may notice that employer needs training on a certain topic, and then we'll reach out to us and we can schedule that. And I also neglected to put on here, employers themselves can request training. If they have new staff or they want a refresher on something, they themselves can work through their employer services representative and request training specific to their need. So those are the triggers that kind of kick it off. That's how the training process starts. And the next slide talks about what we do. So we have a trigger that says someone needs training, an employer partner needs training. We do a needs assessment. What exactly is it that you need? What's the knowledge gap that we're trying to address? Then we design and tailor the training to that audience and choose from an existing curriculum or design something specific for them. And then, of course, we deliver the training. And delivery could be done for one individual employer or group of employer staff there. Or if there's a cohort group that needs a similar sort of training, we will group employers together, maybe employees from different districts, because that actually enhances the learning experience because they can share their perspectives and some of their own situations. It kind of enhances things a little bit. So we might deliver it just to one employer or to a group of employers. It's also a little bit more efficient for us if we can group them together. So the next slide talks about that training curriculum. So we have our primary topics. They like to call them the big three in member count services. We do. So there's creditable compensation, creditable service, and membership. Those are the really big topics that everyone of our employer partners needs to know about. There's some additional topics about working after retirement or how to report unused sick leave. And then there's things that are kind of outside the member count services scope. Again, that might be about the contribution account portal, how employers associate the cash to the contribution data and how to work through that, the technical side of associating that money. And so that we also partner with FSB about that, and we try and incorporate some of the materials about, for example, P&I, penalties and interest, into our training as well. So those are kind of the training curriculum choices that we draw from when we're presenting training to an employer partner. So the next slide is, so our channels. So we have the training designed, we have their needs assessed, and then we've chosen the right training for them. How do we present it? Well, I put in person. It used to be we would actually go and travel to San Diego and present some information to the employer staff there. Can't do that right now. So in person in quotes is what we've been doing. So that could be webinar, we use Zoom now, or a conference call. Conference calls aren't great because we've learned from our employers through surveys and just feedback from them directly that they like the visual element. They like seeing someone, they like seeing slides, they like reading from the slides. So we try and do that as much as possible. That's really what we gravitate towards. And then some of them, though, like self-service. Employers have different needs, and they have different, just like any learner would. I like to learn a certain way, others might like to learn a different way. So we're trying to expand the types of training channels we offer. And the newest one is computer-based training. So that's a new method of delivery. There's 7 new computer-based trainings, which I may call CBTs for the remainder of this presentation. So the CBTs that we've published in July were about 7 main teachers' retirement law topics. And I'm making that distinction because there's also pension solution CBTs out there. I'll get back to those a little bit, and the learning management system that we're kind of leveraging that the project is using. So CBTs are the newest form of training delivery in terms of channels that we have. And so far, so good. I'll touch on that a little bit more later. So the next slide, I wanted to talk about training assessments. And there's many levels of training assessments that we can provide. The level 1 is just, hey, did you like it? And that's helpful. I mean, it's decent feedback, but we're rolling out level 2 evaluations this month. And that's more gauging about the learner's ability to apply and retain the knowledge. So those are coming soon, and that's a necessary enhancement to our training delivery, because there's an example I can provide of 2 employers recently needed some training. And normally we would schedule the training, what do you need? But we provided them CBTs, those 7 CBTs about the teacher's retirement law. And we said, hey, check those out. Well, they did. And they said, hey, that's good. We like them. We got what we needed from those CBTs. We don't need more in-person training. On the one hand, that's great. They were able to self-serve at their convenience, and they got what they needed from the training, and they can feel like they know what they're doing. But on the other hand, do they know what they're doing? Are we sure that the training landed? Did they get what they needed? Did it address their knowledge gap? Did they get the education necessary to perform their jobs? So that's why this new assessment is important, because we can administer a post-assessment after the training, sometime after the training, not immediately, but sometime after, to see, hey, do you still remember what you learned? Because that's really how we gauge the absorption of that knowledge and the retention of it. So this assessment I put up here because it's an important part of offering that CBT experience to the employers, because if they just self-serve and we don't follow up with them later, we don't really know if they really were able to absorb the knowledge. So this is an important part of the future. And it also helps us get feedback about the materials. So if there's a consistent theme with some of the feedback and the knowledge assessment shows that certain questions on the knowledge assessment weren't being answered correctly, if they're consistently wrong, maybe there's something that we can do to update the CBT and update the materials to avoid that particular complication in the future. So next, I did want to talk about common audit findings. So obviously a big part of training and a big part of education, using that word as well, because the audits resolution team also provides some frontline, just-in-time training to employers when they have audit findings. They help walk them through their findings, tell them how to report it correctly. So there's education coming from the audits resolution team. So some of the audit findings that we see are extra due to earnings. You see the training modules are on the left. So these are the training modules that cover the common audit findings on the right. So creditable service, defined benefit membership, and creditable compensation, those all work together for those extra duty earnings, stipends, and non-creditable compensation topics that come up in audits. So creditable service helps employers determine if the compensation is eligible to be reported and if something might be outgrowth or an additional assignment. Membership helps employer determine if someone is 2% at 60 or 2% at 62, which will then affect how their compensation is reported and creditable. And creditable compensation is the last piece in determining if a payment is creditable or not, and how or if it should be reported. So those modules address a lot of the common audit findings. Working after retirement covers post-retirement earnings. That's a common audit finding. And also, we see findings related to unused sick leave, which, of course, is addressed by our unused sick leave module. So these modules are multi-use. We could use it for new staff at an employer, but we can also use it as a refresher when and if an employer has an audit finding that we'd like to address. So these modules, in person or CBT, can help with that. And if you recall those 7 new teachers retirement allowance CBTs, those are the first step in our audit pre-assessment where we can determine what knowledge gaps may exist. So we let them take those, and then we can provide more training in certain area where they might need more education or more in-depth information about resolving that audit finding. So there's a real clear link between our training modules and addressing those common audit findings. So the next slide is some of the challenges and what we do to mitigate them. So staff turnover is a big one. So employers, just like any organization, have a staff turnover. So their payroll staff, the people working on reporting these contribution lines, they turn over. They leave for other opportunities and they have to hire new people. So what we've done recently is we piloted an onboarding toolkit with the Los Angeles County Office of Education, our largest employer. And the toolkit contains links and highlights to key topics for new employer staff. And we're continuing to get their feedback on the tool. We just delivered to them about a month ago. And the initial feedback has been positive, but we're really seeing how we can refine it and offer it to more and more employers once we get the feedback from LA County Office of Education, because they're very involved and they're a good employer partner to give us a lot of feedback. Obviously, a lot of lines, a lot of data, and their experience is very applicable to many other people. If we can help them, we can probably help anybody in terms of, the complexity of their reporting. And then employer priorities is a challenge about employer training. Sometimes they just don't have time for it. I mean, there's a lot going on, especially now. We've seen some trainings get pushed out a little bit because they don't have time because of the current pandemic situation where we're going to have to find other ways to get to them. And our recent foray into computer-based training is an attempt to provide the training that better fits into our employer partners' schedule and priorities. And I'll talk about that a little bit more too in the next slides, but that we're trying to get to that priority challenge by offering more of an opportunity for them to self-serve. They can do it when they can. And we can go back one slide. I want to talk about complexity. Thank you very much. So just the topics can be complex in terms of teachers' retirement law. So the member account services training and development team spent a lot of time and effort on redesigning those course modules that I mentioned before. In the past, we would basically reread the law to our students, and it wasn't very engaging. So now, because of the efforts of the team, there's more infographics, more examples that make the content digestible. For example, we have things to consider on the slides that are questions that employer staff can ask about a situation to figure out the right way to report the data. Now, we can't explain every situation because there are too many variables and nuances to prescribe an approach. And also remember that there's employer services, those representatives and member account services that have relationships with the counties to provide more assistance with a specific topic. So again, the education is not just this formal training that it just can't possibly address every single nuance and permutation of a question, but they can always go to their employer services representative and get more information about a specific situation. So that's the nice blend of the formal training and then the education provided by staff. So the redesign was a big deal. The training materials look great. They're very well received. We've even shared them with staff internally. They take them as well. That's important. They get trained. Don't want to forget that. But the modules have been very well received and they look great. They're a really good redesign job by the training and development team. So the next slide is when I would like to talk about just the training that we provided in the last fiscal year. So 43 employer trainings. 776 people attended those from 468 employers. So you can see sometimes, obviously, we have more than one employer at a training. That's how we get a larger number of employees trained than employers, as it were. And then we provided 50 systemic audits to employers that needed training about their systemic audit findings. And it's important to remember that the first quarter of 1920, our training and development team had to focus greatly on our internal soft launch training for the Pension Solution Project, really devoting a lot of time and effort. And they did a great job getting all the staff and member account services trained up on soft launch. And we may see that same dip in capacity as we get closer to training rollout for functional rollout 2. It's currently scheduled for October. So we may see another little bit a dip as we focus internally on training, but we're still obviously trying to build out the curriculum online for employers so they can continue to self-serve if we're not immediately available. And speaking of CBTs, so I just wanted to, on the next slide, talk about our experience with CBTs as it relates to pension solution topics. So there are 24 pension solution CBTs. If you can move one slide forward for me. Thank you very much. So we have 24 CBTs on the Pension Administration Learning Management System. Employer staff enrolled 201 and employers using PALMs 37. Don't be alarmed by the 37 because we actually align the exposure to that learning management system for Pension Solution with readiness visits. So we go out and do readiness visits with all the employers related to Pension Solution. We've done more than almost 50 these readiness visits, which is 50% of our planned visits. And that's usually at the county source level. We're going to do a lot more marketing as we get closer to Pension Solution FR2 rollout, a lot more marketing, but this is a good sample size to kind of see, is the CBT approach working? And these CBTs largely delivered and created by the learning and development team on the Pension Solution Project. So we have to thank the learning and development team for this initial release of the online curriculum. And these data give us an idea about usage and utility as they have been up longer than the 7 new teachers retirement law courses that we published in July. So the last 2 slides speak about the kind of the how the CBTs are working. So you can see this is the knowledge check. This is the post-assessment after you take a CBT. So the staff at our employer partners that are taking these CBTs are scoring well. That means they're understanding the material, and these scores prove it. It's a quiz. You know, did you understand what you've been trained on, and how do we ascertain if they've actually understood it? So this is good. This is encouraging for those CBTs. Again, they're very good, and these CBTs use the same technology and software that our TRL CBTs use. It's all using the same software, so we can kind of gauge that this is going to be a similar experience that we're going to get from the 7 new courses that we posted. And finally, for some background on the Pension Solution CBTs, this is the satisfaction on this last slide about how people are responding to it. So we're seeing good response, that it's meeting overall expectations, that it's knowledge and skills relevant to their job, and it was easy to navigate and use. These are pretty good scores for our first attempt at CBTs on this scale. So again, we can't draw a corollary between this and our 7 new CBTs on the TRL. However, that they were developed with the same methodology and software give us good confidence that these data tell us what the employers are going to experience when they start using more and more CBT. So this is encouraging. So really good work by the Pension Solution team and the training and development team that collaborated on these. A really good experience with the CBTs for employers so far. So I don't want to suggest that CBTs replace the personal approach. It's really just a supplement to the overall education experience from all the channels we provide. So that I just wanted to provide, again, a little bit of a deep dive into the Pension Solution CBTs because it will be very relevant here soon. And also, again, it provides us good data on CBT usage overall. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions about any of those topics that you might have.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. We've got Joy.
Of course.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Jeff. That was a really helpful presentation. I think also, in addition to just hearing about some of the innovations that your team have worked on with others in CalSTRS to come up with alternative ways to train, even if you're not able to do the in-person workshops. Commend you and other leaders for doing that and not sort of laying low until we get past this period, because we don't know when some of those in-person instructional sessions will be able to happen again. And I also like that you do the sort of check after the training to sort of assess how much people learned. I realize it's still, maybe early with this type of training, and there's also a large volume of both staff and employers to go through the training. But have we done, or have you thought about trying to also then, look at the findings that come out of our audits of employers and just doing an assessment of, trying to see if there's a corollary between, training and numbers of people that are taking the training, and perhaps what the impact is on reductions in findings in the audits. One-to-one is probably difficult because it's so difficult to train the employers, as well as, we're limited in who we can audit. So it might be difficult to match employer to employer. But even just starting to assess some of those metrics may be helpful, or, meaningful to identify where you want to drill down or continue to improve how we're training the employers.
Absolutely. And on that point, there's definitely a lot of evolution coming with our employer education approach. It's a high priority for me for member count services. It's a real big focus in the future, not just for Pension Solution, but just in general. We know how critical it is to the employers to have adequate education about what they do. And the training and development team carries and collects a lot of data. So there is opportunity in the future about seeing what employers took what, and if there's a finding later on, or if there's an audit later on, could we correlate their training experience previously with the number of findings or the lack of findings? That would be great. I love to say this particular employer took all of these training courses and then they had an audit and there were no findings. I would love to come back and tell you about that. So that's the kind of data that we're starting to collect and trying to map it together and know more about their experience and what impact that education is having.
Right. That's really great. I think whether it's seeing some of the outcomes that you just mentioned, which would be fantastic, or just continuing to use that data to refine your methods or who you're targeting for the training, I think those types of things would be really meaningful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joy. Next is Lynn, and then Sharon. Lynn?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you for the report. I find this really interesting. And again, I want to echo what Joyce said and commend you and your staff for rolling out all these trainings, especially with the heavy lift with Pension Solution coming online. And I was curious about the level 2 assessments you mentioned, and how long after the initial training then would you wait to send out the assessment form? And what is the incentive for somebody to go ahead and answer that email if it's 2 or 3 weeks later?
I'll answer the incentive part. That's a little bit more difficult. We're good at reminding people. I'll put it that way. I mean, we do want to encourage them to take it because it really enhances their experience, and it will enhance their employer peer experience as we develop the training and potentially improve it based on their feedback. But it's about, I think it's a month or 2 after the training. So it's not 6 months and it's not a week, but it's time where it's enough time that we can say, you took the training, you've probably applied it in your job now, let's follow up and see how it's stuck. So it's in that range after the training.
Okay, thank you. And so if you find that someone by this level 2 assessment a few months later just didn't seem to understand the concepts, then do you reach out again and recommend that they be one-on-one training? Okay.
Thank you. I should have hit that harder in my presentation. Thank you for the setup. Yeah, definitely. We do try and we try and determine, is this an individual learning situation or is it a problem with the module? So we really want to make sure, like, after we get the assessment back and it just seems like that's a little low, let's follow up with that employer and with the employer staff and see, is there something we can help with? There's a concept that maybe didn't quite stick, and then we can provide additional training on the job, or just in time to that employer. But if it's consistent with that particular module, then we might think it's about the module and we would update the module. So yes, long answer to your question is we would determine if it's individual learner or module specific.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I want to go back and refine my answer to an earlier question. It's 2 weeks after the training. 2 weeks after the training, we provide the level 2 assessment. That's our initial approach, and then we'll gauge if that's useful, if we need to extend it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next is Sharon, and then Denise.
Great. Thanks, Madam Chair. And thanks, Jeff, and to the team. I think as I'm listening to you, I'm I'm reminded of just, I think as educators, we think of ourselves as lifelong learners. And I feel like the CalSTRS staff doing this, it's good to kind of get inside of your head and how you're thinking about it, because I feel like our staff have to be lifelong learners. We're having to kind of, change our curriculum, if you will, to try and be more effective with employers. And so I'm encouraged. I know we have that value, but encouraged to kind of hear the process for you and the staff in terms of trying to, this is a lifelong, it's like a Sisyphus battle to try and get employers, and get them the right information and the right modalities so that it really sinks in. And to Joy's point around the audits, I'm also thinking about appeals too, right? We just, we would love to have, we appreciate the appeals process, but we would love to have less appeals, less teachers being impacted by some of this information hitting them later or post-retirement. So, I mean, that I think is the goal, is to have, less audits, less appeals, and more happy, teachers enjoying their secure retirement. So, one of the things you were talking about were the triggers needed for training, and you talked about, like the audits. And do we, is there always a trigger needed for the education, or do we have a cycle of education already kind of in play for employers that doesn't require a trigger in order to provide that education?
That's a great question. I appreciate that. Thank you for comments earlier. So let me separate again. It's about, I know it's a nuanced distinction, but the education and the training. For formal training, there are triggers. There are, there's an audit. Let's make sure that we have a training request, that we understand the employer's needs. Let's deliver that training. We have a request from an employer. Let's go deliver that training as they need it, kind of just in time. But we also have ongoing open trainings. Hey, just come on, come all. So we offer that as well. And from a day-to-day perspective, I mean, the bread and butter of member account services is educating the employers. So there's opportunities to be educated every single day. There's some question about how to report a certain type of service. They can speak to their employer services representative and get training on that issue, education on that issue as necessary. So we try to provide that ongoing open channel of education, as well as offering training when there's a trigger for it, and offering open trainings as necessary. So we're trying to get both the day-to-day and the specific and the, hey, let's just learn more about CalSTRS, trying to cover all of those situations.
That's great, Jeff. And I think it's good for the board to know, because I've become aware of this because you've helped us in our district, that having a point person at CalSTRS for the employers to be able to connect with is really key, because when we do have issues with individual members, it's just great to know, okay, we can call CalSTRS. Here's the point person for the employer. Because as we know, this credible comp stuff gets really complicated. Every unique, situation is really complex. So I think having that personal connection with staff at CalSTRS is really great. So thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thank you. Denise, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Jeff. I just wanted to say thank you. I love the computer-based training. I'm really excited about the level 2 evaluations. I think that's going to give you a ton of data that you can use. I'm hoping that in the future, the onboarding toolkit can be more of a mandatory type thing. It still saddens me how many employers are not taking advantage of basically free training so they can avoid all of the possible future pitfalls that we see again in appeals. Like Sharon, I'd like to see 0 appeals. I had a question about the pension solution trainings. Yes. Since it's a whole new system, are we requiring employers to do that before they get to use our new wonderful system?
Not necessarily before they get to use it. That's a great question. What we're trying to do with the pension solution CBTs is make them a prerequisite to, we're still going to offer, I'm doing air quotes, hopefully you can see them, in-person training for employers as they get ready to use the new system. We're calling them instructor-led opportunities, because with 24 CBTs, I can be almost darn sure that 90% of your questions are going to be answered by those 24 CBTs were you to take them all. So we're encouraging them. Again, we can't control what the employers do, but we're really good at reminding and encouraging that they take those CBTs as a prerequisite. Once they take the CBTs, if they still have questions, we can design a custom approach to the remaining things that they have unique needs. So San Diego is going to be different than Siskiyou when it comes to their needs. So take the CBTs. When you have additional questions, let's schedule something where we can have someone, again, I'm hoping we can do in person by this summer. That would be great. But if we can't, we can do it over the internet on a webinar or Zoom and say, okay, what are the questions that remain after you've taken the CBT? So let's get really into the specific situation and question that you have.
So I guess I appreciate that and that we're customizing things. I guess as a teacher, I look at the fact that my employer requires me to take child abuse training every single year for, going on 30 plus years. And I guess I have a hard time understanding why we're not requiring employers to do the onboarding and being trained before we give them our wonderful software, et cetera. So if I can be of help in that area at all, let me know. I think that should definitely be something that we consider.
Thank you, Denise.
You guys do a lot of hard work, and I think that everybody could learn a lot from you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Harry, next. And
Thanks,
I wanted to, we're running a little bit over, so hopefully, but we still want to hear from anyone that has comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff, thanks for the report. A lot of detail, obviously critically important work that the employer has to do. I have a more, I think I have a sense of how you're approaching this work, but I'd like for you to just, in your own words, talk about not specifically the report, but your approach as a leader on the role that technology, you're basically taking content, really important content, and delivering it to employers and helping them retain it. So how you view this work into the future in terms of creating a content library through media and technology versus in-person. I think one of your comments was conference calls is the least effective way to do that, which makes a lot of sense. So the importance of delivering relevant, engaging content that is received by the consumer, which is the employer in the largest state in the nation, affecting the largest pension fund in the world. How do you as a leader think about the delivery of this content and then creating that type of library that people can access at any time into the future?
Thanks, Harry. Good question. I think at the highest level, it's about evolutions. So like I mentioned with some of the redesign of the course materials, they're better than they were before by a lot because we listen to feedback and we have very, very strong staff that are excellent trainers and they understand adult learning and have reframed that material to make it more accessible and memorable for our learners. So that's an evolution in some of the course module design, and we're going to learn more about it and get better at it. We've certainly started to push the CBTs and use that. That's very new. I mean, that's very new as of July that we're starting to use those, and of course using it for pension solution as well. So we're using that as an experiment into learning management systems, and learning management systems has a lot more capabilities that we can look into about, tracking attendance and those assessments and getting data about how effective the training was. And there are more opportunities in the future to evolve again, because we're going to get through this project and we're going to do a lot of training for it. We're going to do a lot of training for the project, and all that information is going to help us determine what that next evolution is. To me, it's about channels. You mentioned the conference calls. Now, they are effective. We have quarterly conference calls or periodic conference calls with employers, and trainers sit in on those, and we talk to the payroll staff and employer and like what's going on. So it's about touch points and channels. How can we keep up the relationships with the employer partners that we serve? And how can we offer more and more channels for them to self-serve and for us to deliver the education that they need? So this is one evolution that's happened fairly recently. And there's going to be another one in the next 2 to 3 years about what did we learn from all of this training? What are more channels that we can use? Can we do videos? Can we do something like Retirement Readiness does with the different videos that they provide for members? Can we do that for employers? We're working on an employer handbook similar to the onboarding toolkit, a reference manual, like here's all the most important things that you'll need as an employer reporting partner. All of those things, we're just really trying to expand the channels and the different touch points that we have with employers. So it's about more, but it's also about being most effective and efficacious with the channels that we have. So I hope that helps. I mean, that's a 15-minute conversation right there, Harry. But at the highest level, that's really what we're trying to do, is evolve and find the best way to get this education to our employers in a way that makes it stick.
It's very reassuring, and I look forward to speaking with you offline a little bit more about it, because there's resources involved and it's a longer term conversation.
Yes.
But very refreshing to hear the forward thinking of you in the leadership role. Thank you.
Of course, staff too. They're highly engaged and invested in this as well.
Great, thank you. I don't see anyone else in the queue wishing to speak, but I just wanted to thank Jeff and your team and all the questions from the committee members. A lot of information and a lot of important information that we can provide to the employers as well as receive from employers. And like Sharon and Denise said, we don't want people or activity in the appeals if we can help it. And so as far as training, I mean, that's the most important thing. And we as teachers know that repetition sometimes is the best way to absorb that information and just do a check here and there. So Jeff and team, thank you very much. Okay. Any members of the public wishing to speak? I don't think I have any members of the public wishing to speak.
There are no members of the public on the line.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks again, Jeff and team.
Thank you
very much. We want to continue that conversation too. Okay, next is item 5, the review of committee charter. Bill Perez.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. There are no revisions to the committee charter at this time.
Okay. Any members wishing to speak on this? Okay, all right, great, thank you. Let's see. And so item number 6, review of information requests. Any information requests, Trevor?
No information requests.
Okay. Let's see. And now we're going to go to the draft agenda for the next meeting. How's everybody looking on that? I think we're going to be meeting next month in November.
Yes, you are. Bill, I don't know if you were going to comment on that at all, but we have another great study for you to present. Bill, did you want to make any comments on the agenda? You're on mute.
Thank you. We'll be reviewing 2 information items. One will be on the annual member satisfaction training, and also we'll be providing an overview on outstanding death benefits update.
Okay. All right. Everybody okay? All right. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item?
There are no members of the public in queue right now.
Okay. All right. So that being the case, I would say that we finished our committee business. Thank you very much for all staff involved. And I just wanted to adjourn the meeting. But let's see, Sharon, what did you want to do about compensation?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute coffee break and come back at 10:20. That work for everyone?
All right.
Okay, see you back at 10:20 if you're on the comp committee. And again, we have a couple of members of the board sitting in and are going to be listening as well. So welcome to Denise and Jennifer. Let's see. So who do I have? Scott. Scott, can you take roll for us?
Absolutely. Mr. Keeley?
Here.
Ms. Higa? Okay.
I'm here. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm here.
For the Director of Finance, Ms. Miller?
Here.
For the State Controller, Ms. Paquin?
Here.
Chairperson Hendricks, you have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Our first order of business is approval of the committee agenda.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. Great. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
No.
I always feel awkward doing roll call because it just seems. All right. So our committee agenda is approved. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from, let's see. That is not, sorry, I'm looking at the. Sorry, I'm looking at the, give me 1 second here. There we go. I'm having some operator error issues here, so give me 1 second. All right. Because we're having a paper agenda sometimes is helpful. Okay. All right. So I would, there's the minutes from our March 5th Compensation Committee meeting. Any edits or questions about those minutes? If not, I would move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So Scott, we have our minutes approved. Item number 3 is a consent item, an information item. And so Melissa, do you just want to highlight some changes to some procedural changes for our comp policy? So Melissa, can you just highlight anything? And if there's questions?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Melissa Norsha, Director of Human Resources. The CEO was quite busy this past year with his delegation. I think really this delegation has served the committee well and providing some efficiencies for the committee. I'm going to highlight, there was a lot of work that we did this year. There was a project that we partnered with investments on, Chris, Scott, and Deborah, for their qualitative component. It's the annual performance review. And we consolidated the competencies by which they assess their incentive eligible staff, and actually the organization in general. We use the annual performance review. And so we streamlined that, and we changed the rating scale from a 7-point rating scale to a 5-point rating scale. So that's one item I'll highlight. The other items really were updates to the performance criteria, quite a bit of updates. The trend that I saw this past year under Jack's leadership is really moving toward more quantitative measures, which, in light of the incentive opportunities increasing, I think is very prudent on Jack's behalf. And so those are really the only ones that I'll highlight. The other ones, global equity, there were some updates that trickled out of the investment committee review and approvals that were updated in the comp policy.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Any questions from committee members about this item? I am seeing none. So let's move on to our action item, item number 4, which is looking at our consulting services for compensation. So.
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to this item. I'll be asking the committee for feedback and then approval. First, staff is requesting the committee's approval to begin the process to issue an RFP to establish a pool of compensation consultants for services that the committee may use and also the selection of your primary compensation strategist. Presently, the primary comp strategist is Luis Navas with Global Governance Advisors. The committee also has McLaughlin, Grant Thornton, and Siegel Company in their pool of consultants. The existing contracts that are in place will expire June 30th, 2021, and that's why I'm here requesting initiation of a new RFP so services can be established beginning July 1st, 2021, and that supports just the continuity of services to the committee and to the board. The second part of this item is to approve the proposed scope of work. The scope of work is included as attachment 1. I do think the proposal is broad enough so it captures the services that the compensation committee may need in the future. However, if there are any comments or suggestions that any of the board members would want to incorporate, I'm happy to hear feedback at this time.
Great, thanks, Melissa. So two things that you need direction from us on: one, approval of the RFP, and then also approval of the scope of work for the comp. Okay.
So if there's any feedback on the scope of work, if there's not, I can kind of just quickly go over next steps.
Any questions from committee members? Harry.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Good morning, Melissa. As it relates to the scope of work as it appears in today's item, the last time we went out for an RFP, are there any changes to the scope of work, or this is essentially the same description?
This is pretty much consistent with what we used the last go around. Yes.
Thanks, Melissa.
Gail.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Melissa. I do wonder, just kind of given some of the conversations we've had recently, Melissa, if the scope of work in terms of the RFP may be helpful to include understanding of state labor unions or something like that, if you would be able to add something like that, just an understanding of that.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. And then maybe even state labor unions and state budgeting a little bit, just because I think that would really inform some of the, I don't know if there is that unicorn that understands investments and pensions and labor, but it would be nice to at least see what the responses to that would be.
No, thank you for that, that suggestion.
Great, thank you, Gail. Joy?
Great, thank you, Melissa. The other thing that has come up occasionally in some of our recent conversations is just around kind of market assessment or benchmarking in terms of compensation for our staff. And the scope of work references using approved labor market benchmarks, reviewing relevant data, and if necessary, conducting market surveys. And I guess I just wondered if those are does that include anything that would be specific to sort of a CalSTRS or compensation committee request to look at data, or is it relying on kind of existing data that's available to the consultant?
So we do typically use McLaughlin. They are well known for their the pay data that they have within their databases, and so depending on the position, we would ask them for market data on that. It is still based on the compensation policy, what we have as our peer group. And then at the 50th percentile is where we set our pay. But they would also give us the low and the high, right? So they do give us that band of this is where CalSTRS is, but this is also the minimum and then also the maximum. If you're inquiring about those positions that are outside of the board salary setting authority, we would typically work with CalHR on because they do their own compensation studies as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think that addresses it. Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah. Thanks, Joy. Any other questions from committee members? I'm not seeing anything else. Melissa, does that give you enough feedback in terms of being able to kind of include some of the comments from Gail and Joy in terms of the scope? And
yes.
Okay.
Definitely. So the next steps, if I might just the committee, if the committee approves, which it sounds like it will, the initiation of the RFP, HR staff will go ahead and start that process. We will conduct the initial review of proposals and put forth the top consultants. So then the committee can select their primary strategist. And the committee's work plan does include a work item for March of 2021, where the committee would interview and then make their selection, their final selection for the strategist that time.
Melissa, in the past, I mean, typically how many, I don't know about the comp consulting world, you know, in terms of, but in general, as staff thinks about this, how would you gauge how many folks you think would be both interested in just responding to the RFP and then folks that we would actually be interviewing? Is it 2 to 3? Is it?
No, it's a little bit more. And actually, CalPERS just concluded their RFP for compensation consultants, and they did get quite a good sized pool. The last time we went out, I believe we received 6 proposals, and I can double check and I'll follow back up with you. We do have 4 in our pool. We have minimum qualifications, and so in some cases you do have firms that are putting forth proposals, but their experience really doesn't align with the expectations of the committee or CalSTRS, so they are they're not included. But I'll give you an update on that, Sharon, though, as far as the temperature of what's out there, and also just an overview of what other pension funds are seeing, because that is a question that comes from other pension funds. They will ask questions: what compensation services do you use? And we exchange that information. So that's another good avenue to pick up on some firms that we might not be aware of and include them in an invite, so that we have kind of a broader, diverse firms to select from or to invite.
Thanks, Melissa. So you need direction from us. I would entertain a motion for us to go ahead and approve the RFP process and approve the scope with the suggested edits from Gail and Joy.
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Okay. Moved and can someone second? Okay, and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Scott, is that enough for you? Do you want me to do a roll call vote, or?
It's at your pleasure. That perfectly works fine.
Okay, great. Thanks. So you have your direction, Melissa. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Item 5 is a review of information requests. Didn't really hear any, Scott, except for just the feedback to Melissa, the guidance to her. So
I did not record any.
Great. Melissa, let's take a look at the draft agenda for the next meeting.
Sure. So in November, we will be coming forth and requesting initiation of the labor benchmark study update that occurs in the spring of next year. It's, if you can believe it, it's been 2 years. It goes by quite quick. So we'll be bringing that forth. And then the bigger item that the committee will be reviewing is the investment management classification and compensation proposal. And that really is tied to the collaborative model and expanding the investment classifications that we use. If there's any, gaps, we want to make sure that we're able to attract the talent using that proposal. And so that will be coming forward. We're working right now with Scott and Chris on that.
Great. Thanks, Melissa.
That's it. The only other item, Sharon, would be the one that we spoke about yesterday.
Yeah.
It could be folded into the long-term incentive item, or it could be a standalone. So we can chat about that.
Yeah. Why don't you and I and Harry chat, after this week and follow up on that.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Any other comments from committee members? I don't seeing none. Opportunities for statement. Samantha, anyone from the public?
There are no members of the public in the queue.
Okay. Well, then the compensation committee is officially adjourned. That might be our fastest comp committee. We did handle some comp issues yesterday. So thank you, Gail, Lynn, everyone that's not on appeals. I guess that's Harry. So have a good weekend. Stay cool.
But Jennifer, I do think you should be on comp because it's really interesting.
Well, and
Denise, is Denise not on? I'm sorry, I should know that.
That's okay.
I'm lobbying.
Not on the committee.
So you're always welcome and willing to add. We'd love to have you. And Jennifer, I concur with Gail's comments. I mean, just from your investment experience, but again, no pressure. It's all up to you, but we would love to have you. So
thank you so much. Well, I'd love to, maybe I could learn what's involved, and then thank you so much. I would love
showing up and engaging, reading the materials ahead of time. So.
Thank you. And this has been a fantastic person.
Yeah, it's been great to have you, and wish you all the best. Melissa, you and I and Harry can follow up afterwards on some of these issues, and for the rest of you, have a great weekend.
Yeah, I know, Melissa. I hope you get some time off.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.